We have been talking about Ukraine, also about Gaza, all the regions where the war is likely to spill. But there is one war that has been conveniently forgotten by the world, the one being fought in Darfur. While there is a long history of conflict there, a civil war has been raging in the Sudanese region for the last 1 year. Yet the West's attention is elsewhere. So tonight on Gravitas, we shift our focus towards the forgotten war. Let's start with the basics. Darfur is the westernmost province of Sudan. This is where it lies on a map. The country's population is dominated by Muslims who are ethnically Arab. The same applies to Darfur. However, it is also home to approximately 80 tribes and ethnic groups, and that is where the conflict stems from, at least a part of it. The rest is because of the political power tussle. Darfur is stuck in a deadly power struggle between two armed forces, the Sudanese armed forces, which ousted the former president in a coup in 2019, and the paramilitary group Rapid Support Forces. Last year in April, a civil war broke out between the two groups. As they continue to fight for dominance, they have pulled the entire country into terror with them. A recent report by the Human Rights Watch has revealed horrific details of a brutal ethnic cleansing, sexual violence, torture, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. And which groups are being targeted? Basically, anyone who is not an Arab. This includes Masalit and Zaghawa ethnic groups. They are mostly African farmers. These communities have historically been marginalized and excluded from political authority. The roots of the conflict run deep. While the ethnic differences had been there for decades, things boiled over in 2003. A rebellion erupted. The non-Arabic minorities were frustrated with the marginalization. They demanded greater autonomy and a fair share of resources. The Sudanese government was commanded by the president, Omar al-Bashir, at that time. Instead of addressing the issues, his establishment pursued a ruthless, violent campaign against the Masalit and Zaghawa communities. Some 300,000 people lost their lives, millions were displaced, 400,000 of them were forced to flee to camps in neighboring Chad. And since then, the conflict has continued with intermittent periods of reduced violence, but things took a turn in April 2023. The UN report focuses on the months following the beginning of the war, primarily in the city of El Geneina and the suburb Ardamata. These regions have large Masalit populations. The RSF, along with Arab militias, engaged in a campaign to marginalize the Masalits and seize political power from the group. According to the report, it has targeted community and political leaders, teachers, lawyers, human rights defenders, and religious figures, allegedly kidnapped and killed the Masalit governor of West Darfur. An estimated 10,000 to 15,000 people were killed in El Geneina alone last year. About 9 million residents have been displaced. The details are gory. Parents were killed in front of their children. As they cried for help, the children died too. Panic-stricken people fleeing attacks became moving targets. Entire communities were set ablaze and destroyed. Dislocation, hunger, and thirst have followed. People have been forced to eat grass and peanut shells. Aid agencies say 25 million people are in need of urgent assistance. After all this horror, the Darfur war has managed to catch only a handful of headlines. That too only because of the Human Rights Watch report. Even though it has largely been ignored, the war is not over by any means. And there are fears that what happened in El Geneina last year is about to happen again. The city is on the precipice of a large-scale massacre. The US ambassador to the UN recently warned, will the world leaders take note of the question? Will they intervene? Or are they too occupied with Europe and West Asia? To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.